Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the World Championship Series. I'm Nathanius, joined by Lycan. Once again for day two, we'll be bringing you guys the challenger matches from the North America region. We finished up the first three yesterday. We've got 4 best-of-5s today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. We had some excellent StarCraft yesterday. It started off with 2 3-0s. Not that great, but the Neeb came back and showed us an amazing series against Stardust.
Yeah, we saw our first challenger, quote-unquote, who qualified through the, strenuous brackets over the course of the last few weeks, actually take a series over the premier player from last season. And for those of you who missed those results, of course, joining Neeb in Premier League for Season 3, we also have Jaedong, who defeated Semper pretty decisively, and Masa, who defeated Bales. I mean, all the series, even though 3-0s kind of happened for the first two, even Semper put up quite a bit of a fight. We didn't really have any short games. I think the shortest game was actually in that Bales Stardust series. Actually, the Neeb Stardust series. If you guys missed it, Game 1...
Absolutely. Incredible game. Go watch the VOD.
Just mind-blowing, especially if you're a fan of players such as Galzi, Wiedemans, Maximus Black. Really just right up your alley. But today, we're going to finish out the challenger matches for NA. Like I said, our first series will be Kane versus HuK. Battle of two guys that have both casted some WCS so far. They were here for round of 32 last season. But now they're playing again.
It's going to be exciting because, there's a little bit of smack talk already going on. The battle of the casters, if you will. Going to see, who's going to win and who's going to cast their match in the follow-on season.
Yeah.
The rest of the season.
That's a good point. It's like whichever one of these guys loses could actually end up casting the other player moving forward. Well, we're going to find out. We're loading in to the first map right now, so we'll be going into that any second now. Of course, we want to hear your guys' thoughts on all the banter and action that will happen today. Make sure to tweet at us with the hashtag WCS because we love reading your feedback. We love reading your very insightful comments that you have into all today's matches. But we are just about ready to get started here. I'm pretty excited. I want to ask your thoughts. I feel like this is the most even match that we've got here, man. You like the Protoss or the Zerg player?
I think I like both players. I know that's a very caster neutral. I know, right?
You just started casting, man.
I know.
You can pick a side if you want.
You know what? I'm going to pick Kane. I'm going to pick Kane. I think Kane's going to surprise us.
He has spat more fire prior to the start of this series, so perhaps he's got the mental advantage now. Of course, we are loaded into the first map of our first match here for day 2 of the World Championship Series Challenger in the northwest position. Spawning as the blue Protoss player representing Evil Geniuses, he is HuK. 2 Canadians, by the way.
Absolutely. And in the bottom right, spawning as red, he formerly is with My Insanity. Now for himself, it is Kane. And, talking about Kane, Nate, it's really exciting because both of these players have been taking time off, right?
Yeah.
Kane now going to school. He said WCS is the only thing he is competing in for the time being. And HuK taking some time off to cast, do some different events. Both of these players haven't been completely dedicated to practice.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to know. Like you said, Kane, going back to school, you also mentioned, formerly My Insanity. He's like, well, guys, not really a reason for me to be on a team if I'm not going to be pro gaming anymore. And Kane was a guy that put up some interesting results. Roddy and I talked about for quite a bit of time, and he was one of those guys that was practicing with the top players of yesteryear. Kane was a pretty big staple when people were talking about players like Scarlet. Kane, big practice partner for Scarlet. HuK's, of course, been around for a long time, but like you said, he's been picking up some more non-pro gaming related work. He's commentating a couple events this year. He actually had a couple recently announced. So, which of these guys is in better shape? Already a pretty weird start.
Exciting start, Nate. We have a Forge coming down for HuK. He wanted to cannon rush, but Kane fast expanding to the gold base.
Usually you want to cannon rush a hatch first. He did hatch first, just not where he should have.
Exactly.
Kane's going to see that pylon.
So HuK was smart. HuK knew exactly where he went. He sees it, and he goes back, and he's starting the cannon rush. Pylon going down. The pool is on the way. Gas started first for Kane.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting setup, right? Because HuK can just try to expand behind this, or he can really commit to this cannon rush, and oh baby, he's going to plant some cannons down.
He is. So Kane is now getting ready to plan an expansion in his own natural, where the expansion would have normally gone. And he's probably going to cancel the hatch just the last second, let HuK spend a few of these minerals.
Yeah, that's a good point. For Kane, if he cancels it, yeah, the resources were tied up for some time, but he'll only actually lose about 75 minerals, whereas that pylon is already, 100 resources right there. And we also have to keep in mind that any cannons, that just increases the cost of his investment. And HuK realizes that, so he very smartly cancels the cannon once he sees the hatch cancel. There's no reason to have cannons there. He decides to leave one up just in case, but I think all things said and done, this is a pretty solid start for Kane because he still gets a 3-hatch opening, and there's not really anything aggressive that HuK can do.
Yeah, he does. So it's looking like a pretty standard game as of it now. I mean, there was the Forge down. Forge is going to have a cannon behind it, so it's going to be safe. You know, there's not going to be any Ling aggression that's going to do anything at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Probably going to deny scouting. I don't even know if Kane... he does have the Overlords there, so he's seeing what is going on with HuK, and the Lings are just looking around for any kind of sneaky pylons that might try to do anything crazy, you know, follow on cannon rush to the third base, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, after the cannon rush, after the cannons on the gold base, this has been pushed back towards a pretty normal setup for both sides, right? And the biggest things that we're going to be looking to see are what kind of tech these guys want to go for. HuK is known for aggressive gateway play. Kane mixes it up, but he actually plays relatively standard styles across the board, maybe a little bit more aggressively. But unless he's trying to mind game HuK, I wouldn't really expect anything too insane.
No, I think we're going to see some Roach Hydra play from Kane. I think that's definitely where it's going to go. Maybe Hydra Ling. Kane has been known to do that in the past. From HuK, on the other side, like you said, a lot of gateway heavy units, maybe, you know, +2 blink, sentry timings.
It's super popular, right? Like, that's pretty much what everybody's doing if you watch the top tier StarCraft. And if HuK wants to qualify for Premier, he should probably try to emulate those playing at the top tier of StarCraft.
Absolutely. I'd say these are two of the best match players we have today. It's definitely going to be a game where both player isn't coming into this thinking, hey, I have an extreme advantage, like some of the games yesterday, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even some of the games today that we have lined up, we're going to see some serious underdog type storylines where it's basically, you know, it's not as much of a slugfest as it is can I get out from under the other guy's boot.
Yep.
And this is, as you said, a very evenly set up match. I really think that this could go either way. +1 attack being on the way for HuK, though, this oftentimes lends itself. See that Twilight Council get dropped, and then perhaps that +2, that blink setup. HuK hasn't still taken the gases on his natural, though, so there's always that possibility that he just dumps a bunch of gateways on the ground and just goes ham.
Yep, we are seeing the Roach Warren come down. So on these 3 bases, Nate, is there any possibility of seeing some sort of Roach timing that hits before the +2 in the Stalkers with blink?
I think if HuK tries to take a third base, then Kane has a really good opportunity to do something just like what you've mentioned. Like, he doesn't have the craziest, fastest lair in the world, so he won't have Roach speed. But with Link speed that he's getting, he can try to deny a third base. And HuK has considered this. The third base on this map would be pretty exposed for a Protoss player, so he's actually just adding on 4 more gateways. We're going to see a big push from him, but his Sentry gets baited out.
Oh, and that's a lot of that's one force field that's going to stop other units from getting in. The Sentry does live though. There's the Mothership Core, the cannon, and it didn't. I like that HuK didn't waste the force field. Right, he didn't overreact. He didn't quickly just throw it down. So he still has that force field, and he does have a Sentry with at least half health. It's going to regenerate some shields. Looking at the rest of the game though, one thing is Kane is not doing too much with creep spread.
Yeah, I think Kane's biggest focus at the moment was he was considering the possibility of that third, but he also saw, he's like, no gases on your natural with the Overlord that he had there so long ago. And you see no gases on a Protoss's natural, it's like, well, he's got a bunch of minerals. What is he going to do with them? And oftentimes, when you're playing against someone like HuK, it's an aggressive push. And in this case, HuK's like, okay, well, he kind of knows everything I'm up to. I'm going to take this third base and try to hold on to it. But Kane has a big flood of units out. This is a really important moment, because if this third base gets shut down for HuK, he's not really in a position to counterattack. Well, actually, he's attacking. They're both actually going to attack each other at the same time. That's going to get awkward.
Yeah, so on the bottom we have Stalkers. Stalkers do very well against Lings, but then we have a few Roaches coming in. These Lings could get a good wrap. Stalking some of those Stalkers. They don't have blink, no way to escape. They are going to go down along with that cannon and Mothership Core.
Yeah.
That's going to be it. He's going to recall. That's going to waste the energy. So back on the other end, he's going to be susceptible to counterattack because there's no photon overcharge.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to mention. Like, and he cannot photon overcharge this third base. So all he has is his building cannon and a handful of sentries. But with this many Zerglings and the Roaches now coming across, I feel like this should be a pretty easy deny on this third base for our Zerg player.
Absolutely. He has enough Roaches on the other end. He has a lot of Zerglings that are coming in. They're going to be able to do a lot of damage. There's really no static defense up yet.
No, the Photon Cannon's almost done, but, you know, almost doesn't quite kill, you know, a bunch of Roaches and Lings on top of your base.
Absolutely. Those Roaches doing a great job distracting the Zealots while the Lings go to town on that Nexus, and HuK is going to lose it.
Yeah, this is a really nice deny for Kane. He's still pumping out a lot of Roaches behind all of this. He has +1 attack on the way for those Roaches and Roach speed. So all the tech that he needs to shut down any other follow-up attack that HuK could try to bring, all that tech is already in place. So Kane has to be feeling really good about himself. You know, any type of gateway push, especially since he doesn't have +2 on the way, he doesn't have Blink on the way, doesn't even have a Dark Shrine on the way. There's nothing that HuK has that Kane's current setup can't take down. And we're really seeing, Kane comes in, both of these players without that much practice. We talked about it at the start of this match. But Kane has always been a cocky bastard. He's coming into this thinking, yeah, I'm gonna win this game regardless of whether I practice because I'm better than you, HuK. And now HuK's the one that might be sweating himself a little bit here because he's been put in such an awkward position.
Yeah, so we do have Burrow on the way, and Kane, or as you were, HuK, just now getting the robotics facility, so he's just now going to get detection. And you know what's really weird, Nathanius? I didn't like that HuK took that base, right? Even if he hadn't pushed out with the Stalkers and did have the Photon Overcharge, that's an extremely exposed mineral line that those roaches could have done a lot of damage to, denied a lot of mining. But now we see that this base, just the limited number of units from HuK, he's not able to defend that.
He's just got so much momentum, right? When you kill that, when you kill the Nexus, you kill the pylon, the cannon, the other pylon. He actually supply blocked HuK for quite some time. HuK wasn't able to build forces for a good while.
And he's going to deny +2?
Oh, that's a really big pickup here because right now Kane just has so much economy off of his 3 bases that and that HuK can't compete with. He's willing to just throw units away. It's okay for him to do this because he's going to deny the infrastructure. He's going to deny the +2, like you mentioned. And once he breaks through this wall, he can make the choice. He can just deny force fields.
Yep, force fields are very limited left. Not a lot of energy on those sentries, though he does still have them alive. They are holding off for now, along with Photon Overcharge, and Kane can just comfortably say, hey, I just did a lot of damage. I'm going to back up just a little bit, and I'm going to keep going up to tech.
Yeah, he's getting Hydralisks now. And the key to defeating any gateway-based army of Protoss is upgraded Hydralisks. Once you get that range upgrade and they can shoot over the force field, the damage output is just so damn high. It's very difficult to break, especially if you have inferior numbers of forces.
Absolutely, and Blink is just now about to finish, and there's absolutely no splash damage from HuK to deal with this.
Yeah, this is a pretty tough spot to be put in. HuK is building an Immortal, but, Immortals are okay maybe 5 minutes ago when you're dealing with mass roaches shutting down your third. In this particular spot, HuK can only purely rely on his Blink upgrade that he has right now. With his Stalkers, with the few sentries that he has, this is the meat of what most Protoss players go for against Zerg. But, at the top tier, you don't often see the Protoss have that third base shut down until 14 minutes like this.
Right, so that third base is just now going down for HuK, but something I really like is that Kane is now going into Mutalisk. He's getting +1 Mutalisk upgrade. He's building a few at a time, and I think it's going to be a really nice harassment force that's just going to go around the map and pull HuK all over the place.
I think pulling him all over the place is exactly what he needs to do. Get the Mutas into the main, bring that army back towards the main, and then just shut down the third base again. Like, there's enough force fields to hold this off indefinitely, this choke point, but at some point or another, Kane can either run around or just, get those Mutas in the main and pick off a bunch of probes.
Yeah, unfortunately, force fields don't do anything against Mutalisks, so those are free to do whatever they want. If there aren't enough gateway units to defend, HuK could lose a lot of probes, a lot of tech.
Yeah, and now he's actually trying to set himself up for a bit of a flank. He's going to hit this army from 2 different directions, and this, it's a bit risky, of course. I mean, the Zergling's actually kind of derping there.
Yeah, not a really good position. He gets to those roaches on top of that army. They're going to take out some of the Zealots, sure, but he's going to lose a few roaches. So
and the Mutas hit the main at the same time. Really, really nice play by Kane.
Yep, absolutely. He's going to take out these gateway units. Just find a little bit of Muta Micro will save them from going down. There he goes, pulling it back, and now he's just going to take it to probes. The Stalkers are going back, though, so those are going to be pushed out, but not after killing 8 probes.
Yeah, and at this point, the Mutalisks, it's not like he's trying to build up mass Muta. He is continuing to produce them. He's gotten +1 attack for them, but his army is still good enough to win a straight-up engagement. The only reason why HuK is able to buy so much time is because he has this choke point. It's the way that the map is laid out, terraform. Even though the third base is so open, getting over towards that third base is a little bit tricky. But Kane says, yeah, okay, well, I'll just take the gold then. You can't really push out, so have fun sitting over there while I continue to kill probes with my Mutas.
Exactly. Now we do have Photon Overcharge trying to defend, but he's still bleeding out a few probes. 3 go down. He's going to pull out. I don't even think he lost a Mutalisk there.
Yeah, maybe 1, but even that, not really that big of a deal, because he's denying HuK any opportunity to run around. And look at this. He's getting ready to smash this third. If those Mutas pull those Stalkers back just one more time,
and all those Lings. Nice surround around the Nexus, and that is probably going to go down. There are a lot of force fields, though, that could get those Lings away. Depends on how many he wants to use. But this army is kind of exposed. Kane trying to go for a flank, but
the force fields actually stop him from actually coming over to fight against the Hydralisk, so he can use the Hydras, focus down the Nexus if he wants. He's just a little ways away from it. Now trying to just trade against the army, which is also fine. The Mutalisk getting into the natural during all this. That Nexus still taking a lot of beatings.
Yep, that Mothership Core going to go down. And is he going to take the Nexus? Yes, he does. So once again, GG is called, and Kane takes game number 1 over HuK.
Yeah, pretty solid game by Kane. Really dealt with the way that started off. It can seem really, really crazy at the beginning. It's like, okay, well, he went hatch first or the gold, and it got denied. It's like, isn't it such a big deal that he got denied? Like, how could he possibly still be ahead after that? Well, you build the pylon. 100 minerals down. That's 100 minerals to cover just to build the first cannon. You cancel the cannon, so you only get like, you only get 75% of that cost back, so a little bit of money lost there. Then you let the second cannon finish, and that's another 150 minerals. Keep in mind, of course, that Kane canceling the hatchery and then just building the next two bases, he only cost him about 75 minerals. Maybe a delayed investment, but he still had that money to work with,
right.
Whereas HuK also delayed his expansion by opening Forge first.
Yeah, and Kane, just great reads overall, right? At the beginning of the game, he sees the cannon rush go down. He's ready. Both players were ready, reading off each other really well, but then Kane knew he saw an opportunity. HuK took that very risky expansion, and he tried that attack.
Yeah.
That attack set him up for failure. It took away his photon overcharge capability. So I think things just went really favorably for Kane in the start of the game.
Yeah, it was almost like HuK baited himself by still having that cannon out there. And, HuK comes in with, came in with it seemed like a little bit of a overconfident push, but everything Kane did kind of wreaked that confidence. And that's really what this, that's what like this challenger match kind of like, to me, it's, you have two cocky guys going up
right.
at it. They're the two varsity football players. The one's like, oh yeah, I'm very much so better than you. Even though neither of them are really considered like at the top of their game right now, to each other, this is an equal matchup where where one should be better than the other, because they both both of them come into this looking at it like, yeah, I'm a pro, but then the other one's saying to the other, it's like, no, you're not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So it's exciting to see what they're coming in expecting of themselves, and then what they're actually doing when we get into the battlefield. And that was an exciting game. I mean, Kane just was very much in control. I hope that in the next game, HuK is able to bring it back. He's able to do something exciting and show us that, hey, he's not on the back foot the entire time of the series.
Yeah, he's got plenty of opportunities. We're only done with one game in this best of 5, ladies and gentlemen. We've got quite a bit to go. We are loaded into Coda for Map 2. Here you're watching the World Championship Series in the Northwest position. We have the Red Zerg player, Canada's Kane.
And in the bottom right, it's the Blue Protoss playing for Evil Geniuses, HuK. Now, HuK, this is the first time, last season was the first time in 7 seasons that he has not made it in to WCS Premier. 7 seasons before that, all good. Then on the 8th season, he doesn't make it. Stays in Challenger.
Yeah, HuK has a record for getting in. He's always been one of the most competitive players that we've seen in the World Championship Series, especially in the America region over the last few years. But, Kane has, he's only just recently started to get in this year, really. And this was like where he was able to make his big splash, his big debut. We saw him get into the round of 16 for Season 1. He came all the way out to Poitiers with us. Took a couple big series off of some very well-known players, like Bunny, for example. Defeated Polt, actually, to qualify in Season 1. And those games were quite good. It wasn't one of those like weird games where it was like, oh, he had some like cool cheese that no one had ever seen before. It's like, no, he played pretty straight up long games against Polt. And since then, it's been a bit of a bumpy road for him, as he's been looking to get back into going to school and whatnot, and he hasn't been traveling quite as much as we've seen him before. So he's just someone that's been around. He kind of hit a quick peak, but I think he's been telling himself, he's like, yeah, I want to go back to school. I have other things I want to prioritize, but he can still compete here. And he's already made, both these guys make a good amount of money just qualifying for Challenger.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Kane is that guy that thrives off a lack of pressure, right? He takes the pressure off himself, doesn't take himself too seriously. Yeah, he's a little cocky, but he goes into these matches, goes into these tournaments just saying, hey, I'm going to play some games, right? And he does really well. That's how we got into the round of 16. That's how we got into the round of 8 at WCS. So I believe that we're going to see a lot more good play from him today.
Yeah, and HuK once again opening up with this fast pylon out front, but Kane's like, okay, you don't have a wall at your natural, and there's no wall at your main, so unless you're Liquid Hero, it's highly unlikely you're going to be cannon rushing me. But look at this. He still brings drones on. He's still respecting that HuK could actually be that guy who builds a forge in the back of his main base going for like a full crazy cannon rush.
Yeah, so a little bit of a juke from HuK there. He's getting in here, seeing the pool, sees that, Kane isn't going for any kind of gas. And, I mean, he got a few drones to pull, so that's a little bit of lost mining time. On the other end, no chrono on Warp Gate. What do you think we're going to see from HuK on this map? Same thing?
Well, he hasn't taken a second gas yet, and he's just now started it. Okay, so that's an important thing to keep in mind, as a lot of Protoss players will get both of those gases very close to each other. If he has a lot of energy on that Nexus, he could pump a couple of chronos into his Warp Gate. He actually starts a Stargate. I imagine that HuK still wants to go towards that standard +2 blink setup. He's just going to take a different direction this time around. And a Stargate opens up that door for some Oracle play, some more active aggression without committing ground forces that you need to recall, for example.
Yeah, so Oracle play is very nice. Do you think we'd see Void Rays, though?
as much of a thing as it used to be. Like, there was a period of time where Void Rays were very popular. Like, some players will open up Phoenix, do a bit of for us, or they'll go Oracle into one Void Ray, and they'll use the Void Ray to clear out Overlords because they don't want to build a ton of Phoenix, as, you know, Phoenix are some of the most expensive units in the game, but this is, or at least to build constantly, but I imagine that we should see an Oracle. If he went straight Phoenix, I would be quite surprised. He's basically going full Wings of Liberty.
Yeah, so we have a couple gateways coming down. He hasn't seen the Oracle yet. He hasn't seen the Stargate.
Oh, wow,
that is just now coming out.
He queued the Oracle, but he was supply blocked a little bit. But it is going to be an Oracle out of HuK. I'd be shocked if he made more than one. But you can always fly around. As long as you keep that Oracle alive, whether or not it kills workers, you can still tag forces with Revelation. And, you know, Burrow is probably not going to be as much of a concern for him. Nope. You always have to be mindful of Zerg counterattacks. You know, that Oracle doesn't give you a lot of staying power on the ground.
I think the Oracle may have just been missed.
Now, he's got the Overlord coming in, so he should... Oh, he's going to see it leave the base.
Yeah, okay, he sees it. But there are no Spore Crawlers down. Kane, all right, Kane has just started 3. So we have those on the way. Oracle can still, you know, with a good control, and HuK is known for his control, Oracle can get in and do a little bit of damage, snipe a few drones on the other sides of the Spore Crawler.
Yeah, the reaction time was the most important thing for Kane, because his Oracle is going to show up right as the Spore Crawler finishes, and that's going to prevent him from being able to really get in and do anything. It's like, okay, yeah, you killed a drone, but you invested so much, 150 minerals, 150 gas, into that Oracle, into the Stargate. Now he gets a couple more drones. He's managed to find a spot where he can use that control that you mentioned, but whew, don't want to lose that Ferrari.
No, so he moves, he loses 4, then the Oracle moves out, so that's safe. It's good. Gives them that map vision, gives a little bit of threat, so Kane's like, all right, I got to keep an eye on my base back home. I don't want that flying in and doing any more damage, right? And we see the Roach Warren on the way, a few more links coming down, and I'd like to see a little more creep spread from Kane if this is going to go to the late game, especially if HuK gets that chance to push out with the Stalkers.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you're playing against someone who does aggressive gateway pushes, one of the biggest things that Protoss players often skimp out on is Robotech in these scenarios, and because of that, because they usually want to go straight for the Twilight, straight for the Blink +2, or a quick +1, either way, they usually don't have observers on the map, so Creep Spread really helps getting positioning with forces like Roaches. But look at this, 6 Zealots, 7 Zealots now with the Oracle to back him up. He's just going to run in here. If he kills this Spore Crawler, that Oracle is going to be able to do so much damage to help kill these Zerglings. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Some more links are being forced. Some just pop. These Zealots are getting very low, but they're doing a great job, and there are more coming in.
I mean, the Queens here actually have to come up to try to help and expire against the Oracle. Now, it didn't go maybe as well as HuK was hoping. He did kill a lot of links. He's forced a lot of larvae to be spent on Zerglings. Actually, 37 drones versus 43 probes. The lair is only just now starting. Kane's very, very far behind as far as tech goes, and since he's already got all these links and roaches in production, the only thing he could really hope for is to deny a third base of HuK, and I don't even think that HuK would be that upset if he had to wait a little bit longer to plant that down.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do see another Oracle on the way, so perhaps HuK is planning to get a few more drone kills in, try to continue to fight that economy, maybe continue with the pressure that he's been providing. He warps into Sentry, uses the force field to save the pylon, but these are going to get cleaned up with the Roaches and the Lings.
Yeah, I mean, Zealots are strong against Lings, but he doesn't have that +1 attack just yet, so he's not two-shotting them, and you know, it's unfortunate you lose that Sentry. Like, this next Oracle is going to run in. Is he just hoping that there hasn't been a Spore Crawler rebuild? I guess that was all he could really hope for.
And he hoped correctly, but there is a Queen, but he's going to run right by the Queen and get a few more drone kills.
Yeah, I actually do like this quite a bit. So HuK manages to make something of a rather dicey situation, to say the least, getting close to 5 drone kills, and actually can go back over towards where that lair is. So he gets to see exactly when the lair finishes, and he kills a few more drones. And as long as he doesn't lose that Oracle, it's all cash money from here.
Absolutely. Left that with 7 drone kills, and the Lings get inside the base, and they're going to wrap around, force a bunch of force fields, and possibly kill all these sentries.
Yeah, these sentries are so important for our HuK. Trying to build momentum with energy to go for a follow-up attack is not going to happen. Loses every single one of his sentries.
Absolutely.
This counterattack by Kane was perfect.
Yeah, but he does have a Void Ray, which is definitely really good against Roaches, but then there are all these Zerglings. He does have energy on the Photon Overcharge just about to finish.
Yeah, he wasn't able to prevent himself from taking a good amount of damage. He only lost 2 probes there, but losing so many sentries, how is he ever supposed to take a third base? Like, Kane could just throw a bunch of Lings at it if he wanted to get a wraparound and just cancel it, because he can't use that force field to protect it like he did in the last map.
Yeah, that was absolutely a lot of gas, and then especially with building a Void Ray behind it as well. I'm not liking HuK's position too much. He is going for more Void Rays, so we are ending up seeing that tech this time. But Hydras are also on the way along with the Spire.
I think these 2 Void Rays are actually just like, they're just panic from HuK. HuK's realized that he's like, okay, I actually really need to make something happen. He's super concerned about another Roach attack coming his way, But the switching to Hydralisk is going to make these Void Rays like a moot point. Like, okay, he's got this Oracle out on the map. Sure, he's adding on gateways. But the third base is really all HuK is trying to do. All of this is HuK trying to buy time for that third base. And we're really just seeing a very confident Kane coming out here. He knows exactly what he needs to do. It's like, yeah, okay, I don't need to play that game this much to know how you play, HuK.
Yeah, absolutely. And, fortunately, HuK has been playing a lot, so Kane has had a lot of material to watch of HuK if he has taken time to prepare for this. So the Void Rays, they're going to catch a few lings, that's it. But Kane doesn't really care. He's in a great position. He hasn't taken a fourth base just yet, but he is pumping out units.
Yeah, I don't think that this is too bad a spot at all for Kane since he has a 3-base setup. Now, for HuK, if we compare it relative to the last game, his position-wise is still manageable because he actually has that third rather than, it being canceled. And he wasn't even able to start it, really, until 14 minutes as far as being able to mine off if it goes. But there's that Mutalisk follow-up once again. And HuK, he hasn't even been thinking about this. Even though he has a Stargate, there's very few things in your brain that are going to just tell you, hey, I should just start making Phoenix for no reason. And he actually, I think he just spotted the Spire with that hallucinated Phoenix. So can he actually afford to make that switch is a big question, too.
Yeah, and he just has the Twilight Council finishing as well. So +2 is just going to be able to start. He does have some Stalkers on the way, but Blink is nowhere near done. He hasn't even started it yet.
Yeah, he's very far away from having that. And he still hasn't started any Phoenix production whatsoever. He saw the completed Spire.
He's still building Immortals, actually.
Yeah, this is, I think he's misread this situation a little bit, because now these mutas are going to show up in his main base. He's going to start to lose probes, and the muta count is pretty threatening. 9 Mutalisks, he's going to be able to take out those probes in one shot, also hitting them with the bounces as well, which will pretty much be one-shotting them, or at least very close to. And this is super, super big, because there's a force, an overcharge force. Actually, if he gets his mothership core, it's even bigger, so no way for Kane, no way for HuK to move out on the map and be able to recall.
Nope, and I don't even think he lost a Mutalisk. One gets down to really low health, but he pulls out in time.
Oh, yeah, he actually has all his Mutalisks intact.
So that is a great position for Kane. Once again, he's on 4-base economy. The HuK's third that was very, very much delayed, and he's continuing to harass with
and there's
Mutalisks.
No blink still, Lycan,
nope.
Which means these Stalkers they're slow.
Yeah, we do have the Phoenixes finally.
Yeah, but it takes so long to build up a good Phoenix count. And think about it this way, Phoenix takes 35 seconds to build. It's 100 gas to build Phoenix non-stop. It's eating up all your gas income off of 2 whole bases, basically. It is so expensive to constantly produce Phoenix, especially if he adds on any other Stargates. So for HuK to continue to build enough forces to actually defend against the Mutalisks, Kane is just going to take all this time to just build Hydras because, well, Phoenix aren't going to do anything against those.
Yeah, so we see with HuK on a third base, now he does have Kane has the upgrades coming for the Hydralisk speed. When that finishes, is there a window before that finishes that HuK could hit where he can take advantage of positioning?
I don't know that HuK can't, because even though he has so many force fields, he still doesn't have any blinks, which means he has no way to get around any sort of position that he uses aggressively. He can't get past his own force fields, I guess, is another problem. But, Kane coming in here, taking this fight off creep with so many Hydralisks, without that Hydralisk speed upgrade and without his Zerglings to tank, he's allowing the Void Rays to get a bit more damage done than maybe he should. And these cannons in the main that were built for the mutas are actually working against Lynx too. I think Kane just needs to sit back and chill a little bit, work on denying a fourth base of HuK, and get some more powerful tech. I like the Infestation Pit. Go for some, I think Broodlords is never a bad move.
No, not at all. And he's letting these Mutalisks go. He's just sacrificing them, I guess, for probe kills.
Yeah, he's remaxing on Hydralisks right now. So he's wanted to open up all that supply for a massive Hydra assault. He's burned out a lot of the force fields. I still believe there's a reasonable number of them available. Yeah, there's a good couple for HuK. So Kane just needs to take good positions, and I would argue mostly taking good positions in fights on creep.
Yeah, he's going to get a Queen, might get an Overlord.
There's no Observer, by the way, on the map, so he can't actually clear this creep out.
Yeah, and definitely his creep spread this game much better, and he needs it this time. The last game we didn't get to that point where, both forces had a nice army moving out onto the map. So now we have that, and Kane is trying to spread that creep so he gets that vision, he gets that speed and that positioning advantage that he can take.
Yeah, this is one of those scenarios where you think about these two players, bringing out the smack talk, calling out for the most even challenger matchup that we basically have, and suddenly Kane's just been playing so well. HuK, might be getting a little bit rustled here as soon as he takes a couple of losses moving up towards this right side base.
Yeah, he doesn't have too many force fields. I mean, yeah, he stops the Hydralisks from attacking, but he also stops himself from attacking.
Yeah, and he saves his fourth base too, which is the most important part. His economy is still intact. And HuK, whose army is very, very expensive, is going to continue to bleed, forces out, loses all those Stalkers that were on the high ground because he didn't have Blink. Yeah. There was nowhere for the Stalkers to go.
Nope, nowhere to go. And those Hydralisks can just sit back, wait for those force fields to die, and then move forward because there may be 4 force fields left with HuK's army.
Yeah, very little. And look at this. Look at this. Like, and he's getting his +3 attack. I'm sure we're going to see Vipers at some point. Maybe.
Yep.
Well, I guess he's like, oh, I accidentally maxed out.
The Blink is still not done. Just over halfway.
Yeah, we're almost 20 minutes. Yeah, Blink will be done in like 20 minutes. It's pretty sick, actually. Most Protoss players try to get that up with their third base so that they can make those big gateway pushes. And you know, it's like, okay, maybe the Stalkers tried to snipe that base, but he couldn't even blink back.
Yep, Mothership Core throws down the Time Warp and then more Force Field. They split a nice chunk of the army out, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty reasonable way to parse this army, but the problem is, it's not like he's getting a fourth base behind this. He's just still trading out his very, very expensive forces. He has to warp in more sentries. He doesn't have any more force fields with this army.
No, he doesn't have anything to protect it. There's no zealots, no meat, and HuK is going to lose a lot of this army, if not all of it, to these Hydras and Roaches.
Yeah, once the Immortals fall down, that's the anchor on the boat here for our Protoss player. We do have one of them trying to slip away with barely any health, but one gets caught on the back foot, running away. And that creep spread getting closer and closer. This is actually starting to be really nice for Kane to reinforce these aggressive posturing.
Right, I'm not feeling good for HuK. He's definitely going to be in a position to lose this third. A little bit of this army gets concave, a little collapse on it, but it's not going to be enough. There are Hydras to shoot down the Phoenixes that are trying to pick up units. The Roaches are taking care of the Stalkers. I don't think that these Mortals are going to be able to do anything, and the Void Rays are falling fast.
Yeah, I mean, this is just not the army that HuK needs right now, and you know he needed to blink 5 minutes to go to try to make something of this game. But Kane has just shown up and said, "Yeah, I'm the one who belongs in Premier League. I know you missed out last season, but I'm going to put you in a spot where you're very, very close to missing out on it again." GG, Kane goes up 2-0 here, and he's just playing really, really sharp StarCraft.
Yeah, he is. You know, HuK tried to go for that aggression with the Oracle. It didn't pan out too great right at the beginning, but he did manage to get a few kills. Again, another follow-up Oracle, a little bit of Zealot aggression. It was some nice plays from HuK, but Kane was able to handle it and to continue moving forward in the later stages of the game.
Yeah, just great play by Kane. You know, we talk about all the smack talk. Kane was the one to call him out, and now Kane he's putting his money where his mouth is.
He definitely is. He is one game away from his third season in a row of Premier League.
Yeah, and that's it's very interesting when you think about it like that, because if you get the deny, like imagine if HuK wins the series and it's like, okay, well, we both get 2, you know, it's something, right? We're kind of like, it kind of sets that even tone. But then Kane wins this, like, yeah, you get 1, I'm better than you. Is like, because there's only so many players that are really competing at the highest level in North America, and both of these guys aren't even considered like 100% full-time pro gaming. They're both doing so much outside of it that you look at it and you're like, well, it's like they're trying to compete for the best title, and they're not even, you know, seen as like these guys that are putting all of it into it. So you can really see where the ego comes into play.
Yeah, the worst thing is that if they do make it through, whoever does, right, you're going to wonder then, well, you know, if you get stopped at the round of 32.
How far do they go?
Yeah, where could you have gone if you had focused completely on the game?
Yeah, that's the most interesting part to me, because you have like the HuK who barely squeezed through the qualifiers even for this season, and you know I had a chance to talk to him about it because he was taken out by some of the other top players a few times in the earlier qualifiers. Like he dropped a PvP series to PuK, who PuK is pretty good, but mostly against Zergs, not really known for like crazy PvP. So, and HuK, who's a guy that's like kind of argued to be better in the mirror matchup area, so he's looked shaky just coming into this season. Whereas I haven't really seen too much weakness in Kane's play, even if he hasn't been playing that much.
Yeah. If we look at the records of the two players, right, we have HuK, his PvZ, not his best matchup, right? Kane,
No.
ZvP is his best matchup, right? But that is going off of the recent results of HuK, where he has done actually very well against Zerg. So even with a lot of recent results against Zerg, he is still not favored in this match.
I think even Protosses that aren't beating Zergs still think that their results are better because of the Swarm Host change.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that.
But we are loaded into what could actually be the last map of this series. Feels really weird to say that. We're on Iron Fortress in the top left position. He needs to win 3 games in a row to make it to Premier. He is EG's HuK.
And playing for himself in the red, he is 1 game away from making his 3rd season in a row in Premier. It is Kane.
You think about it like that. He's like playing for himself. He like left his team, but he's like, I'm still gonna show up because I want to make some money if I can, and you know, put HuK's face in the dirt a little bit. It's like, Kane, this is like that guy. It's like, okay, it's like, well, you know, the movie series is over. Kane's like, no, another sequel. It's like, let's go again.
This is Jaws 15.
Yeah, it's like, come on. It's like, how many sharks are there in the water, right?
A lot, actually. Did you see that surfer?
Oh my. Okay. Well, yeah. But my point is that, like, you know, Kane is he's not just going to be like, oh, I'm retiring and then then stop. At least Stefano took quite a bit of time off when he left his team and everything. But Kane's like, no, I'm actually still just going to play whenever I can. He's like, I'm just not full-time, you know.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on other things in life, and that's fine.
Yeah, Kane has said he's not going to play anything but WCS, right? And I mean, who wouldn't? If you're seeded into WCS, the prestige, you know, the excitement of getting to play in the World Championship Series, I don't blame him for playing, and I'm glad he's playing. It's good to see him here, and obviously he came ready to play.
There's no negatives to even making it this far. Like even HuK, if he were to lose this map and be eliminated here, it's still a reasonable showing. And you know, for someone like HuK, I guess that you also want to keep in mind that you're going into the 3rd season. If you are knocked out here, you don't have much else to look forward to towards the end of the year, I guess, except for casting for either of these guys. But you also have to keep in mind that, like, you know, we're getting around that contract negotiation time, and you know, you'd really like to be able to say that you made Premier 2 out of 3 seasons rather than just 1.
Yeah. Now I do like this. Okay, so on this base, there's the RNG that you might have a natural base, and you might have a 3rd depending on where you take it that spawns towards your opponent, right? But I think Kane is very smart. He's taking the southern 3rd because he knows, hey, if you're close to me on the left, he gets the scout. He hasn't had it yet, right?
Yeah.
But he does have a natural that's very close to HuK.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, he could have taken the western 3rd base, which would make it a little bit weirder. HuK tried to do that fake out cannon rush again. Yeah, even losing here isn't the end of the world. Still get $3,000. WCS points aren't really a factor for either of these players anymore, not this year. So this is more of a guts and prestige match, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say in a lot of ways this map can favor Zerg, especially, you know, down in the middle. But do you think we're going to see Stargate again from HuK?
I'm really not sure. Like, I agree with you in terms of, like, this map has a lot of open space. If you want to close off or sequester any areas, you need a ton of force fields, especially if you get caught in the open. You know, a lot of people say there's a reason why there's a Zerg logo in the middle of this map, like it.
Yeah, absolutely. This would be a great place for Warp Prism Harass, though. If you didn't want to go out, you didn't want to make yourself too exposed, play defensive.
It is a map where we've seen quite a bit of that, and at the same time, that also makes it a pretty decent map for Mutalisk play, which Kane has busted out a fair amount of. Especially when you look at how exposed that natural is, and there's just so many different angles that you can push in from the main base when it comes to the air. And the 3rd for the Protoss is just really far away. The creep spread can help mitigate distances between bases. It helps you get units around quickly. But for the Protoss, there's not that much that's going to make it easy for him to defend his natural opening at his wall and a 3rd base because it's just so far out.
Yeah, and one thing that would be kind of interesting to see if someone doesn't have the proper situational awareness of inside their base, it's a very large main base, and Nidus Worm play could be something exciting to see.
I mean, I guess I would like to see that. Doesn't happen too often.
No.
I could see Kane. I will give you this. I could see Kane going for it just as a way to stick it to him.
Like a BM strategy, just like,
yeah,
and here's a Nidus.
Yeah, I can see Kane doing something flashy now that he's up 2-0 to basically put HuK's face in the dirt in a Game 3 scenario where he's like, yes, I am in fact better than you. So far, this looks very straight up, though. This is pretty much the same opening from Kane that we saw him go for on Terraform. The Roach, a little bit later Roaches with Ling speed. So he's setting himself up off of a good 3-base economy to deny a 3rd. And, well, there's the 3rd base. It's a little bit earlier than on Terraform, though, so maybe he's going to have a better chance of holding it.
Yeah, I think after the last couple games, perhaps HuK is thinking, hey, you know, Kane shut me down pretty early of getting that 3rd. If I can establish that 3rd, if I have Photon Overcharge ready, perhaps I'll be able to defend it.
Yeah, it still makes me nervous when he moves his Mothership Core out, though.
Yeah.
You know, that was the key. That was like the linchpin that was missing to hold that 3rd base together.
Absolutely. So hopefully, you know, he's not planning to be too risky with it. Doesn't want to get it near any queens, any spore crawlers, anything like that. We are a little ways from Hydralisks coming out. So that base is probably going to... HuK's 3rd is going to finish.
Yeah. Look at Kane being all aware, too. He, like, canceled that creep tumor that was building as a Mothership Core, tried to deny it. Didn't let the building tumor die. So all these little things, Kane is playing very, very well so far. And look at this. There come the Roaches. There's a big flood of Lings. Now, you mentioned it, Lycan. The Nexus, it should be established very soon, but that Mothership Core is out of position. Exactly.
Yeah, so we have the Lings, we have the Roaches coming in, and I mean, that could be enough time before. I don't see any sentries there.
If there's 3 cannons building at the natural too, so
Oh, yep,
he
there
has
are
to make
4
a
sentries
choice.
there.
He has to make a choice at where he wants to attack. I mean, with the cannon and photon overcharge and this many sentries, it's possible that HuK holds this with great control, but already the sentry's starting to take a bit of damage. Okay, he's force fields them in. There's the overcharge. He's got the cannon on top of this. Is Kane actually just going to focus on this Nexus? It looks like it.
Yeah, he is. He's going to focus it, and I think he might be able to get it. There's only 1 Stalker, a couple Zealots. There are still sentries with a little bit of energy, but he is going to get the Nexus.
More links flooded in to help defend this too. Kane has to be feeling good about this. He's managed to prevent HuK from getting a quick third every single game in this series so far. Now he will lose the rest of his roaches. It's not a, it's not a full win for him in terms of, yes, I have, he didn't get to get his cake and eat it too. +2 and Blink have started substantially earlier than the previous time. But look at this, he gets another run by.
Ready.
Oh, that sentry.
He's going to run by. He's going to go to the probe line in the main. He's going to take out the second sentry before it can block off the main, and he's going to go in and take down as many probes as he can.
This is fantastic for Kane. He denies a third, gets into the main, kills a few more sentries, and we talked about it. Those sentries are so important when you're playing this sort of style for Protoss, and it is the style that it's the Protoss style. This is the flavor of the month. This is what everybody's doing. Really, really heavy gateway aggression, mass stalkers with sentries. But if you lose those sentries, he's only got 5 of them. It makes that attack so much weaker when you finally push out.
Yeah, now we have a lot of roaches. We have 6 roaches on the way, Burrow on the way. The Robo facility is still just coming down, right? So a lot of probes have gone down, but I will say this. Compared to the last game, he does have Blink that's halfway, and he also has +2 that is going to finish at the same time.
Yeah, so he has the upgrades that he needs to make this work. Kane is still being very aggressive out on the map, but he's ahead on workers. He's got his third base saturated. So for him, he's pulling in enough money to have that advantage. And he's still going for the same follow-up with that Spire. But look at this, just constantly trying to find an opening on this third base. Without Roach speed, I will say it's risky, but Blink also isn't ready yet either.
Yeah, Roach aggression is great. The Roachling aggression, keeping himself on the map, keeping HuK on the back foot.
And now he does have Roach speed, so he has that mobility that he needs to catch HuK out of position if he steps too far in any one direction.
Yep, now he does have the photon overcharge. There are a lot of sentries back here with a few gateway units to support, and I think that there's a chance that HuK may lose a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he does pick off a good number of the roaches. He should be able to save this third base, but there's the Burrow coming into play. He killed the cannon that was building at the third base. That's actually really, really smart of him, but now there's an observer, so it's not a perfect world right now for Kane. HuK is actually dealing with his setup much better this time around.
Absolutely. I think that engagement definitely went in the favor of the Protoss player. So we look on the back end, the Spire is just about to finish, and Kane is going to try to do the Mutalisk harass.
Now, what I'm curious to know is, there are a couple cannons building for HuK. Some of them are at that, actually they're all at that third base it looks like, or at least just 2 of them. So I'm mostly wondering, because he has one in the main base too, he has to have considered the possibility of Kane doing what he's done every game in this series, which is that Mutalisk follow-up after the big Roach link, and the Mutalisks are on the way. He needs to be very careful with where he puts these Stalkers, because if he gets baited too far from that third, he might get sniped.
Yeah, one of those hallucinated Phoenixes actually did scout the producing Spire, so I believe that HuK is just saying, okay, I see exactly what you're going for. This is, game 1 and 2 all over again. I got to find a way to defend against it.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, Stalkers aren't necessarily the worst, but because of how immobile they are, even with Blink, they're still not good enough to go out on the map and just instantly go home. Like, you need a recall for that, and that of course, makes you susceptible to, not having overcharge back home. And here come those Mutalisks. It's like, okay, grab a probe kill or 2, back off, nothing crazy.
Yeah, so my question is, as a 3-base Protoss, right? You're worried about this Mutalisk harass. Can you overcommit still to cannons? Because the goal of the cannon...
I don't think so.
Okay.
I really don't. Like, the follow-up for the Mutalisks is the same as it was in the other games, which is just more Roaches and Hydras. But you just get 2-3 cannons per base, lock it down, get to 160 supply, and I think that's when we should see HuK push out this big gateway mass where he tries to just go and end it, because this is a pretty low-tech army for the most part. The Hydralisks don't have all the upgrades that they need, and the creep threat isn't perfect. There's still observers, so the creep won't be there forever either.
Yeah, the only real advantage Kane has right now is he's up in the army supply, but I mean, if he can't do anything back at the Protoss base...
Yeah, moves like this are what he needs, though. Like, there's no cannons in the natural mineral line, so if Kane can continue to buy himself time with these mutas, he delays and delays that big push that HuK wants to make.
Yeah, so now he's just getting started the muscular augments for the Hydralisk, so yeah, the Mutalisks are doing the job that Kane wants it to do.
Yep, just want to keep him alive as long as possible, and as he loses them, he can trade that supply out into some more cost-effective units against this army composition. He's locked in that 4th base as well, so all Kane wants to do is just buy as much time as he can, steps forward a little bit. Pretty brazen move here. He wants to fight out in the open. This is why I was talking about all those force fields he'll need to cut this off. Still very risky by Kane.
Yeah, getting close to that army allows him, HuK the chance to cut off some of those units like he just did.
Yeah, I do think this is a bit risky of Kane to do. HuK hasn't tried to make a move on a 4th base just yet. I think if he can continue to harass the mutas and hold HuK at home, that's the ideal scenario, because HuK is just pumping out Stalkers and Immortals. And the Immortals will wreck the Roaches, and those Stalkers are going to be trying to wreck everything else with the use of those Blinks.
Yeah, in the last couple games, what we saw is a lot of sentries wasting force fields, right? But look at those sentries, so much energy. They can cut off a huge chunk of that army, prevent anyone else from attacking, and just take big chunks out of Kane's army, making it more, approachable for the Protoss.
Yeah. Kane's going to go for a pretty big spread. He's looking out. There's a couple force fields already thrown down by HuK. But HuK, this army, if he gets the proper force fields, should never lose to this force. And here he is just starting to parse them apart, holding a lot of the forces back on the right side.
Yep, excellent engagement for HuK. He is getting his sentries hit by the Mutalisks, but that's okay because the Blink Stalkers are doing a great job taking down these Hydralisks. A little bit of Blink Micro.
He's starting to lose some sentries, actually. The Immortals are taking quite a few hits. Didn't force field all the forces off the top side. And the next big wave of reinforcements, 17 Hydralisks and 10 Roaches, are on the way for Kane. I'm mostly trying to see where the nearest pylon is. I don't think there's one super close to reinforce this.
No, it doesn't seem so. He has a bunch of units streaming across the map, but hopefully HuK can take advantage of this time. Right now, he's going to get some Roaches, Hydralisks, and maybe some Overlords.
He's running low on force fields, but he's got Kane to pull the drones, and this is a really tough spot to be in for the Zerg players. He tries to hit from both directions. It seems that HuK has built up the gateway army that he needs with that +2 to take Kane out and try to bring this series back to equilibrium.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a bunch of Hydralisks coming in. They're trying to take down the Immortals. That's a lot of big damage, right? They're going down quick.
He's starting to make something of it. The only thing that hurts is he lost a lot of drones, but he's still even on workers. So if Kane can stabilize here, this is not the end of the world, because those Hydralisks count are just going to ramp up so much faster than anything else. And look at this HuK adding on 5 gateways. He's like, oh, looks like I was banking some resources there. Only 6 gates, actually, off 3 bases. He can definitely afford a lot more production.
Right. So, Nathaniel, HuK is a player that doesn't like Colossus, and we're seeing that in these past 2 games. We're seeing it in this game as well. Do you think that that's something that he should change up in his style?
I mean, Colossi are nice, but in this position, most Zerg players are really good at dealing with them in terms of just getting either big spreads or Vipers. And, you know, if you don't build big, expensive units to get targeted by Vipers, then there's, then you don't have to worry about that. So, for HuK, he just wants to rely on his micro. Colossi don't have quite as much micro potential as a bunch of Blink Stalkers and force fields.
Yeah, absolutely. I do worry a little bit at the lack of splash damage, especially, HuK not controlling as well in some of these engagements. It can help.
It hurts more as the Hydra count ramps up. These Stalkers are so out of position, by the way. Kane's recognized that he pushed those Stalkers all the way to the south side of the map. He's just going to walk up here and take a big fight against this army. Needs to be careful, though. There are Mortals and Sentries on the right side, and I feel like if he was going to do this, he needed to try to kill that 3rd Nexus, but he's actually just going to throw away a lot of his forces.
Yeah, a little bit of indecisiveness from Kane, and we're seeing these things get cleaned up quite nicely. Hydralisks, a little bit of Roaches on the retreat. Turning back for a second, not a smart move. And Kane now falling a little bit behind.
Yeah, Kane's the one that's going to get chased now, and that 4th base for HuK is almost done. If Kane doesn't even realize that this 4th base is here, I don't think. He did a good job of picking off sentries. He's targeted down a lot of them, so not that many force fields, but the supply is so close. This is a very nice position for HuK because he has that 4th. He has so much more money he can fall back on, and Kane has only just now realized.
Yeah. Equal workers, equal army supply. This is a great position for HuK, especially after everything that's transpired.
If Kane wants to have a chance, I feel like he really needed to snipe that base and get out, but he's still going to bleed out a lot of Roaches retreating. There's a Templar Archives that's going to finish up soon, which means we're going to have a bunch of Archons added to this army, and Kane actually also finds himself supply blocked at the same time.
Yeah, that's not a good position to be in, especially when you have an advancing Protoss and you want to be reinforcing as best as possible, because guess what? Drones aren't good as reinforcements.
No, they are not, and that Roach count, it's nice to buffer for these Hydras, but now there's still 3 Immortals. He's still going to be one-shotting a lot of these Roaches very quickly with those forces, and there's so many Stalkers. HuK has a supply lead. This is all you need as a Protoss to win with big armies like this.
Absolutely. The upgrade advantage, this supply lead, and this is an army that I would not be afraid to move into Kane's forces with.
Yeah, I mean, for HuK, he was winning fights when he was behind on supply. Now he's ahead. He still has force fields. He still has Immortals, and he's just going to splinter off a few of those forces to shut down this 4th base. He's basically saying, yeah, Kane, I'm going to force you to come out here and fight off creep. You have to defend this base. You need this base to win this game.
Absolutely. Drones falling one by one. 10, 11, 12, 13 drone kills, and still picking some off.
And this is actually a really great played game by HuK. He's managed to recover in every way. from most of the mistakes that he made in the previous maps. He got all the tech, all the upgrades so much faster. He's going to force out another big fight here from Kane, or, Kane will at least try to get that fight. Bleeding out a few of the sentries, so there's not that many force fields. This is Kane's only chance to get right on top of this army. The Immortals are deserted, but HuK seems to be okay with leaving them here.
Yeah, he's saying, I've got Archons on the back end. I'm going to be just fine, and I just need my Stalkers. That's the only thing I don't want to lose.
Yep, he has Storm on the way too, and I think once Storm is out, that's pretty much it for Kane. There's not a whole lot else that he has going for him that's going to allow him to take down a big army like this. The Roaches are very susceptible, of course, to the Storms. The Hydralisks will die if they sit in the Storm for its whole duration as well. And that complicates things a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. These Stalkers walking down the ramp don't want to get caught too out of position with the Roaches and Hydra surrounding, so he's going to retreat.
There are no more sentries, so this is an army that straight up head-to-head, Kane's army would beat the Stalker Ball together. But once Storm is out on the map, it's a moot point. Once he has, a couple more Immortals to reinforce, rebuilds a few sentries, it just gets really ugly really quickly. Kane has to make a play here. He has to pull HuK into a bad position right now.
Yeah, the Storms are just right behind the Stalker army, as well as the Mothership Core, which does have a Photon overcharge. That base is still there, so Kane needs to pull out. I really like from HuK the little Stalker hit squads, right? Taking down drones, getting even a hatchery.
Yeah, Kane only has 38 workers. Like, his army supply is even, but he will not be able to replace this force. Like, it's not happening.
Nope, not at all. He doesn't have the economy. These Stalkers, these Storms especially, the Storms are going to be excellent.
Now that Storm is ready, what is there to deal with these Templar? Absolutely nothing. He's going to step up. Big Storms drop all over the army. Even if it doesn't hit much, he's forcing him to dance around, and this is really going to soften up that Zerg force. The Hydras are trying to hit from behind, but he's also right inside of his base, so reinforcements are easy peasy. HuK takes the series to 1-2. Not going to go down without a fight.
No, we saw a pretty excellent game from HuK there. We saw a lot of things we didn't see in game 1 and 2. We saw good decisiveness from HuK. We saw good positioning. I like that he took the earlier third. He secured it, and I think that was it. Even though he lost it.
You compare it to Terraform, just having that Photon overcharge is so much more helpful for keeping that base alive. It's a really big deal.
Yeah, taking that earlier third, he forced Kane to feel that he needed to get out on the map, and he needed to take that, and then he took some good advantages through engagements, took a lot of Kane's early army out, and I think that helped him a lot.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah, that's the most important thing, is that Kane wasn't able to snowball his army, because even though he eventually did get in there, get that third base, he lost every single unit that he brought there. Whereas if you think about Terraform, he came in, knocked the base down, he just backed off. He still had a bunch of Roaches and Lings. He was able to go and invest straight back into economy afterwards without needing to worry about if he had anything to deal with a counterattack.
Yeah, so Kane, not as well played as the other games, and then also the Mutalisk transition, right? He played the game exactly as he did before, and as we've talked about yesterday, any good gamer is going to adapt game to game to game, right? And especially in a best-of-5 series. So we see Kane not able to do as much with the Mutalisk as he did in previous games because HuK was ready with the cannons.
Yeah, HuK was, I think at that game for him, he basically realized, like, I'm playing against the same thing every single time, and he just responded to it a little bit better. We are currently counting down to load into the next map. It will be Cactus Valley. So third base is still a little bit open and spread. I feel like, we talk about it. It's something. It's a trend that's happened on a lot of maps. But Protoss players, despite all the complaining sometimes you hear about the way that maps and third bases are laid out, they've still been having a pretty actually reasonable degree of success playing out games in these scenarios, and I think that just the great use of Blink Stalkers and Sentries has just been a big boon to that, since Swarm Hosts are no longer an issue for defending bases without units like Colossi.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are loaded in now. Our next map, we have a 2-1 score. This guy needs to win the next 2 maps if he wants to get back to Premier League for Season 3. He's EG's HuK.
And he is now still in the lead, 2-1. Playing for himself, it is Kane. So one thing on this map is that cannon rushes are still very good.
Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to how crazy any one of these guys wants to be, right? Because HuK showed the Forge opening at the start of the series, hasn't brought it back out since. It did not accomplish anything for him on Terraform. In fact, we could argue it put him behind, and then I would even double argue that it put him further behind later on in the game, because HuK was like, oh, I have a pylon on the map because of this early cannon. Let me just warp in some Stalkers here, and then he lost all of his Stalkers, and that was what eventually led to not even having that overcharge for the third base. So a lot of things went wrong out of the opening with that Forge for HuK at the start of the series. I expect to see him go Gateway or Nexus first, yeah, that Gateway, it just makes a lot of sense. There's no need to mix things up. He just needs to play his A game.
Yeah, from Kane, I wonder if we're going to see Hatch again. Yes, we are going to see Hatch first once again. Nothing too crazy from either player starting off.
Yeah, it's a big map, right? So if you want to try to get some pressure, you want to try to do some damage, it's more than a pain to get across in the earliest moments. So it's much safer to do Hatch first. And look at this, Kane is even going to keep that in mind, that a cannon rush could be good on this map with how tight this choke is at the natural. Just patrols this drone here. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to take that chance.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be caught off guard with anything cheeky like that. We do see from HuK, what else he has? He has the gateway just about to finish, and still nothing crazy.
Nope, nothing crazy at all. I don't think that we should expect anything like that out of HuK. If he did something really weird and it didn't work, then you basically just throw away your one game that you played very well on, because it was a macro game. It wasn't like HuK had to do anything flashy to win that game. We didn't see that Oracle come in and kill like a dozen drones and suddenly be like, oh, okay, well, Kane has no chance. No, HuK played a very straight up game, and that was HuK showing a little bit of that old flair where it's like, yes, I am HuK, I am the #1 Protoss in North America, and you're not going to walk all over me like that. Whereas Kane's still thinking to himself, he's like, okay, he's like, well, I did the same thing every single game. He's like, if I need to mix it up, perhaps I can. And Kane played very, very greedy with his opening. He went double hatch before pool with gas as well. Like, this is as greedy as it gets.
Yeah, so Kane is kind of making himself a little bit vulnerable. I'm curious to see if HuK's going to follow up with something like a Stargate, or if he's going to try a little bit of aggression earlier than he has the last couple games. Last game, he played it towards that +2, towards the blink and all that. So I'm curious if HuK is going to want to try to go for something a little crazier than what he has been.
I wouldn't mind seeing some 2-base gateway aggression, just because that 3rd base is also very, very close to where HuK's possible 3rd or 4th could be.
A lot of opportunity for force fields, too, to prevent any kind of reinforcement support from Kane.
Exactly, and we also have to keep in mind, of course, that Kane is going to have a much better opportunity to creep spread towards HuK's base, and that will allow him to go for counterattacks and be aggressive later on if HuK makes any mistakes on his side of the field. He opens with the Stalker, wants to deny the Overlord scouting, and he will go for the Mothership Core too, very quickly following it up. I don't think there's too much poking that he can really do with this. Maybe his probe saw the Overlord on the map. He's gonna, oh, barely miss it.
Yeah, not gonna get it. So yeah, I think that the base positioning on this map, it can work in the favor or against Kane, depending on what each player goes for, right? As you were talking about, you know, it's going to allow him to spread creep closer to HuK's base a lot faster, but at the same time, it also has that very exposed 3rd that Kane could lose, and that's not something that Kane wants to do, especially we saw the last game when Kane gets behind the economy, how it works out for him.
Yeah. 2 Lings make it into the main base of HuK, and this is a very important moment. Those Lings, I'm very curious, did they actually see all those gateways that HuK was building? Actually, no. The one at the front, he knows there are 4 gateways on the map. This is really important because now Kane's going to start to build Lings, and HuK doesn't necessarily have to commit to this gateway aggression, but with 4 gates, we just talked about this. Like I said, I wouldn't mind to see some 2-base gateway pressure. HuK is already thinking, okay, maybe I can just take a 3rd base. He's already moved a probe there. Kane has to build Lings in response to 2-base aggression, and he's completely cut his own economy in doing so. Yeah,
he does have the Forge on the way. HuK is getting ready to do a little bit of upgrading. Perhaps we're going to see that, you know, gateway aggression, as you said. 12 Lings on the way. This isn't a position that HuK wants to get caught on the map with that little force, you know, the Sentry, the Stalker, the Mothership Core moving out. So he's going to play it safe and stick around the base.
Yeah, if Kane was able to get these Lings inside, then, you know, that's a GG moment right there because there's not enough to actually handle this. But he's also thinking about 3rd base. He's like, oh, is HuK going to take a fast 3rd? Whether, you know, he's either going to do gateway aggression or he's going to take a 3rd base. And right now it seems like neither. He's just going straight into that +1 attack. But HuK's probe is there. He is thinking about that 3rd. And I imagine that he will try to get it very soon.
Yeah, Kane was out with those Lings trying to get a scout, posturing a little bit, saying, hey, look, I have a force. You don't want to necessarily be out here right now. It keeps HuK on the back foot, keeps HuK in his base, and allows Kane to make his decisions. He does have Spore Crawlers coming down, so I think he's thinking maybe HuK's going to go for something cheeky, just playing it safe.
He's not even sure what he's up against anymore. He has a Overlord going into the main base of HuK, and at the same time, he's going to run those Lings towards the 3rd again. He did just check around for any proxy pylons out on the map, and we can see HuK right now is trying to get inside the head of his opponent a little bit.
Yeah.
Kane mixed things up, right? Kane did the same strategy for the first 3 games in a row. Finally lost the map. He's like, okay, I'm going to change things just a tad bit. We see that quick burrow. You know, without a robotics facility, there's no observers, so I do like that move quite a bit. And with the Lings out on the map, it's very difficult. He could also block a 3rd base before cannon gets placed.
Yeah. He has seen the front. He does know there isn't a cannon, so I'm curious to see if HuK is thinking, you know, will he go for that burrowed roach play? Is he going to put a cannon down? But we're not seeing anything come down now, so this could get a little dicey.
Yes, it could. I mean, he does start the Nexus. He's got a pylon on the way, too. These Lings coming up, not able to get through this wall. Oh, actually, some really good force field blocking in a lot of these Zerglings. +1 attack is almost done for these Zealots. I think he actually should be able to kill all of these Lings. And this is just really unfortunate for Kane as he loses a ton of his active army.
Oh, wow. I think Kane should have pulled back with the Lings that didn't get caught out. Should have just moved 40 Lings go down.
Lost 43 Zerglings for nothing.
Nope, nothing but energy. And those sentries are going to move out. They still have a handful of force fields left. 20 more Lings on the way, a few roaches, but Burrow is close to finishing.
Yeah, but I actually think that was like a game-throwing moment there for Kane because now he can't build any drones. So if he wants to defend this attack, he needs to build roaches, he needs to build Lings. Even defending against this, there's still the recall available, but he has no economy. And HuK's going to have his third base up soon.
Nope, there's nothing behind it. There are still sentries keeping these roaches out, and they're going to pull back. Mothership Core does have enough energy for a recall if it's needed.
Yeah, I think that was actually phenomenal for HuK. I really like everything in this game right now for him. Roach speed is nice. More Lings and Roaches is like, okay, well, those shouldn't really be able to do too much. The force field count's getting low, but he's not going to break a Nexus cannon with this weak of an army, especially since he doesn't have the economy to really power it out. So he just starts drones behind it, an evolution chamber. But HuK's getting all the tech that he needs too, a robo facility and a Twilight Council.
Yep, so I think HuK is finally setting himself up in a position where he can do that gateway aggression. You know, he just took an awesome engagement. And I really want to know what Kane was thinking. I imagine it was something like it was a no crap moment where the Lings got caught and he just didn't think of what he was going to do.
I mean, you think about Kane being a bit cocky, right? In this matchup where he's up against, the old boy Protoss of NA. And he really tried to make a play on that sentry at the wall, but maybe he just wasn't expecting that reaction time to be so good. And now he's even trying again. He's like, I'm going to force my way in here. You don't have cannons. Knock the pylon down. I will get some Lings by, and I'm just going to make this really, really difficult for you because you don't have any observers out over here yet. And, well, the first observer shows up, so Kane loses that power to really play around with the burrow.
Yep, observers, cannons. It's not a great position for him to be in. He was trying to take a positional advantage with that little ramp, trying to catch some stalkers out, but the force fields were too good.
Kane, by the way, continuing to mix it up. He's got the Spire close to finishing. He starts melee upgrades for the Lings and only building Zerglings. So no Roaches, no Hydras. What Kane wants to do is play around with these cheap Lings while he builds up Gas Bank to build Mutalisks and then just run around the map and just try to, basically play whack-a-mole on the Protoss army. Wherever the Protoss army isn't, he wants to be, and he wants to be putting on pressure.
Yeah, and I don't think HuK has invested into the static defense in his base to deal with the Mutalisks. So these Roaches, these Lings, they could still manage to pull the Protoss army apart.
Look at this counter. The whole point of this right now is to just get him to run back home and try to defend against this because he's going to try to slip through. He does manage to... Oh, only one Ling gets through that wall. So the Roaches might try to help him break down the cannon so that he can run the Lings into the main. Look at this. He leaves about a dozen Stalkers behind with a couple of these sentries and then recalls the Immortals home to deal with the Roaches.
Yep,
really nice split on the army by HuK.
Yeah, excellent decision.
And the Spire's here. Oh, no. So he's not going to get mutas either. Starts up 6. That's it. That's all he's going to get.
Yep, 6 mutas. I don't even think he's good. No, he invests in the Spire again, so he's thinking, I'm going to continue down with that plan. These Lings are just kind of getting thrown away.
I mean, I think HuK can actually just push out with the rest of his forces and clean up here. There's not really anything else that Kane can do. HuK played this game phenomenally well. The only thing that hurts him is that his blink isn't ready just yet, so these Stalkers are a little bit immobile. He can't just abandon the sentries yet. And with the mutas, actually, he should be able to kill off most of these.
Yeah, but that's still not enough. Here we go. The Immortal comes up, and then a bunch more sentries with a lot of force field potential.
There's so much energy on these sentries, and no upgrades to those Mutalisks means that a Guardian Shield will make them pretty much useless against the Stalkers in a head-to-head engagement.
Yeah, he could have taken out the Evolution Chamber. He could have stopped that upgrade for Kane, but it did just finish, so he pulls back. Still, I mean, I'll take a hatchery over that any day.
Yeah, Kane is in a very tough spot right now, and HuK is going to run home with this. Look at this. He starts 7 Photon Cannons. You know what the 7 Photon Cannons here says, Lycan?
It says, no Mutalisks are coming to my base.
That's right. And it also says, I'm about to push you and win this game, because all he wants to do right now is be out on the map pushing. He knows that Kane is not capable right now of building an army that can actually stop this. Kane's only hope is to get out 25 plus mutas where the cannons are no longer enough to defend, and he forces HuK to sit back and tech up to Stargates and get Anion Pulse Crystals for those Phoenix. That is the only way that Kane will have enough time to build the economy he needs to actually win this game. And HuK does not want to give him that time.
No, there's 7 more Mutalisks on the way, joining this flock of 6 already. Yeah, and I don't think he's going to get to that critical mass of Mutalisks where he can handle that kind of static defense. He is still trying to get something done with the Mutalisks, picking off a pylon, trying to do a little bit of push with the Roach. He keeps his units on the map so he can be aware of where HuK is. But there is HuK, and he's pushing forward, and he's taking Mutalisks out.
This is all HuK needs. Kane cannot defeat this army, and he's going to go for a big counterattack. He would love to try to force some sort of weird base trade, but I think HuK has too much. And then HuK could just defend with defensive warp-ins now. He has everything that he needs to push and win this game on the ground. There's no longer really that enough Mutalisks, I think, to even worry about just leaving the sentries and immortals behind either, because there's just so many sentries.
Yeah, there aren't drones that are going to be able to escape to build anything. They're just falling left and right. Kane is in here, and he's taking down the warped-in reinforcements, taking down a lot of probes, but I feel the army of HuK is just overall stronger than what Kane has left.
Really, really nice play by HuK, bringing this series back 2-2. Kane throwing everything that he can at him, but Kane hasn't even been able to knock down a single one of these bases. And the most important base for the Protoss, that third, is still mining, which means that, you know, okay, maybe the natural lost it, but he can mine off this third base for a long time. And as long as he can do that, he can keep warping forces in. And at some point or another, he's going to kill all the Zerg buildings, and he's going to walk home and clean up the army too if he has to.
Yeah, this is just a matter of time. Kane is just biding time, probably just collecting his thoughts, trying to think about what he's going to do on the next map.
Yeah, there's not really anything he could do at this point. He's starting another spawning pool, trying to get more overlords, but he's at half the supply right now of HuK. And he is still trying to do work on this third base. Actually, no Fortune Overcharge here, so it's like, I don't know, he's making something of this game, but there's still a good amount of probes that are available in that main base, too, that he could always move over to that third. Maybe could have sent some more of these Stalkers back home to defend earlier on, but I still don't think it's the end of the world. I think this is still more than fine for HuK. He's in a great spot. He still has all the Nexi and money to rebuild. GG gets called. HuK does tie the series up 2-2.
Yeah, so, I mean, there we go. 2-2. These guys are pretty evenly matched. We saw HuK coming back, not letting Kane get away with the same tricks as the games before.
Yeah, it was really, really nice, honestly, just the way that HuK has adjusted. And Kane threw something a little bit crazy at him. But, you know, that's like Kane mind gamed himself, basically. He comes up with the 2 lings. It's like, yeah, you don't always get to slip lings inside your opponent's base. But he sees 4 gates. He's like, okay, 2 base, 4 gateways, no gas in the natural. This looks like it could be a really big commitment to a big, heavy Zealot push with a couple of Stalkers falling behind. This could be the kind of thing that kills me if I go double hatch before pool, especially with how close Kane's third was to HuK's natural. Like, it wasn't very far of a distance he had to go to attack that third base. Because of that, Kane's like, well, I'm going to build 43 lings and then throw them away.
Yeah, and that was kind of the crux. That was the game-ending moment. We still had quite a bit of game that followed on after that, but just the lack of success with those lings, it really hurt him.
The lings don't need to get in and kill anything, but if you lose all of them and have to rebuild them, then things get really, really tough, because you're at a point where you should be only pumping out drones, and the lings give you map control. It's like, okay, if I need to build something else, my lings will see it ahead of time. But if you lose all of your Zerglings, you don't even know if HuK is going to counterattack. So you have to build units regardless of whether or not HuK is building, you know, another forge or even trying to take a 4th base. You're just in a bad spot. So really, really awkward spot to be in. We're going into game number 5 right now. The map is counting down. It's going to be Bridgehead.
Now, I think Kane is absolutely the kind of guy that would spine crawler rush on this map.
I want to see it. This is, you know, even though Kane lost the last 2 maps in a row, if he really is as cocky as he comes off, and if he's feeling as confident as he makes it seem like, he should.
Absolutely.
Just throw down the gauntlet, man. This is the moment to challenge this man. You know, this is it. It's game 5. Whoever wins this map will advance to Premier League for the World Championship Series in Season 3. On the left side of Bridgehead, we have the blue Protoss from EG. He's HuK.
And on the right in the red, trying to get his way into Premier for this 3rd season in the row, it is Kane. Now, we don't see an early drone going out.
I mean, he still has I believe he still has a little bit of time before he would need to send it. I would love to see him do it, just because, you know, I feel like that's the most fitting end. When you have so much smack talk being thrown, you could try to play the standard game, but this map does get weird in a lot of different ways. Bridgehead is a map that there's a reason why we're seeing this as game number 5, and it's because neither one of these players actually thought it was going to go to game number 5. You have a big array of rocks in the back of your base. Your main and your natural are connected. There's no ramp between them, so in the back of that main natural duplex, basically, you have these rocks. You know, that gives you so many openings, and it, generally speaking, favors Zerg against Protoss, because you have 2 different angles that you can push in from. You can force the Protoss to build 2 giant walls rather than just 1, as they would normally do, like, for example, in the last map. So this really complicates things, and there's that drone going around. I want to see it, Kane. I want to see it, but I want to see it, Lycan, but it's actually not going to that top base, not for a spine rush.
No, he's just going to take some a sneaky hidden expansion.
I like this. You know why? Because I think HuK might have been thinking what we were thinking.
Yeah, Yeah, so HuK's probably expecting it. He hasn't scouted for it just yet, but maybe he's expecting it.
Yeah, when he goes into Kane's base, he's going to be like, oh, there's no hatchery. Oh, maybe it's at my base. And then he's going to go to his base like, where is it?
And you know what's great? This is what's going to be awesome is that he's going to see there's no hatchery there, right? So Kane on the back end is probably going to build a lot of speedlings, maybe some roaches, and he still has a chance to use those back rocks to his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, the back rocks will always be an aggressive option for him. And HuK comes in, it's like, okay, you definitely went hatch first because your spawning pool is so late. Let's see that hatchery. He's gonna be like, guys, there's no hatch.
Man.
So he immediately has to worry, and I think that we should see him. And just look at the way he's laying out his main base. You know, look at the way he's already preparing for a spine rush. Just the way that his natural, he's closing off the area between his main and his natural because he's worried about rocks being put there. Very smart of HuK to actually check that north base because this will give him a breath of fresh air. He's gonna be like, oh, okay, you went hatch first up here. You're not actually proxying by my rocks. If HuK had went straight to his own rocks, he might not have realized in time, and he might have made a couple bad life choices.
No, very smart of HuK. I wonder how much he's seen that kind of build on the ladder.
He canceled the Stalker, too. He had the Stalker on the way very early. He canceled it once he realized he was safe, and he also took another gas. So with that, he was able to get his expansion up faster. He doesn't have to be anywhere near as worried as we were talking about if Kane had actually spine rushed him.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways this map definitely favors Protoss. There are a lot of little chokes and stuff where Protoss can use force fields to their advantage. And at the same time, though, there are a lot of avenues of approach for the Zerg.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest parts about this map is that you have those back rocks that provide a very early double area to attack. And then, of course, once you take that third base, the third base on this map actually kind of defends your main base. You don't have to worry about it as much, but there's still a couple different ways to get into that third. The third has its own back alleyway out towards the fourth, and you know that big bridge up front. You know that's always going to be something that both players have to look out for. But a few lings gonna come poke. There's not gonna see anything.
No, not at all. Yeah, I think overall I really like this map. It's very nice. There are a lot of different strategies that can be used against it. I wonder if you look at the natural and the main, this little space between against a Zerg, could someone still do a sentry drop and force field this off?
I feel like that'd be really tough to do. You know, you would need so many force fields. Like if you get 4 sentries there, then you can buy yourself, you know, a solid minute of time where the Zerg is totally helpless. But the Zerg isn't also going to build any structures in that area too, so it's kind of weird. Kane's not even thinking about that back natural base either. He's just like, yeah, I'd rather just save that for later because it should be the easiest base for me to take, right? He's kind of taken the approach to this like some people did on Vani Research Station, where they just hold on to it until they absolutely have to take it.
Yeah, you set up the early ones, you get those defended, you have them fortified, and then you don't have to worry about struggling for that economy, and that, yeah, as you said, it makes it an easy third or an easy fourth to take.
Yeah, I mean, that's so nice because he took the fourth base on this map as his natural. It's really weird to think about. That was the first expansion he took. So this base, which would normally be a lot more difficult to hold on to later, it's also nice because the natural expansion, if he takes that as his fourth, then his fifth base can be the base just across the rocks from the natural. So the rocks might not even ever be a factor that Kane worries about on his own side of the map just because of the way he's chosen to take the bases in this order.
Yeah, so we see Lara on the way. We're probably going to see Mutalisk again, maybe Burrow from him. Does he have a Roach Warren down yet, though? He has 3 more gases on the way.
Yeah, I'm actually very curious to see. He still has those 2 extractors available in his, I guess, third base area that he could be looking at. These links doing a bit of poking on the third of HuK. But I think HuK's going to be able to get that third up very quickly. Kane is more focused on being greedy this game. We can see that he's taken a massive lead in workers, and he's still just pumping out non-stop drones. So he no longer wants to try to play that game where he's delaying and denying HuK, where he puts himself at risk of HuK getting more sick force fields. He'd rather just out-greed him and then bowl him over with a superior army later on.
Yeah, definitely. But he does put himself at risk, and he has to be on top of the Protoss army. He has to know what HuK is doing, because as we see HuK getting that mass sentry count, right, he's not spending those force fields. That does open him up to having enough forces to do a little bit of pressure, if not a full-on attack.
Yeah, and I love this. He gets a few lings over here, and this is nice because he's going to force a defensive warp in. That army for HuK is still pushing across the map, so he will force Kane to finally build something that isn't a drone. And with this many zealots, and I guess +1's not done just yet, this is still a pretty dicey spot to be. He's going to see this army. He's like, do I actually have enough to handle this?
Yeah, he does have a Roach Warren that is done. 6 roaches on the way, but he has to pull away.
Yeah, he's been so greedy at the start of this game. He doesn't want to lose anything, and even losing just the hatch wouldn't be the end of the world because he always has that pocket base he can take. But it was important that he got all the drones out. That was a really big deal. He saved his drones. Loses one of the queens, though.
Yeah, it loses Queen, loses a few more Zerglings, going to lose the Roaches, and this isn't a great engagement for Kane. And HuK is force fielding out all the reinforcements out of the main.
Yeah, this is actually really, really nice. HuK is using the layout of this map to his advantage, blocking out the reinforcements. He still has that recall to save the 3 sentries if he ever needs. He's actually warping in aggressively. He's got Stalkers here to help deal with these slow Roaches, and even these Overlords are at risk for Kane as he's hit his supply cap. So if one of these Overlords were killed, I guess HuK doesn't realize, if he killed one Overlord, he wouldn't be able to actually build any more forces, and he even gets Zealots into that natural.
Yep, Zealots moving up top, trying to get drone kills. They do. 6 drones have fallen. That base still hasn't gone down, but there are still Stalkers here. They're going to be able to supply block Kane.
This is 4 warp gates, by the way, for HuK. This is not an all-in by any means. He did not commit a crazy amount of resources to this. He's lost a lot of expensive units in doing so, but he just knocked down that base. Not anything, game-ending as far as the worker losses go. Kane still has a small lead, but his greed has been punished.
Yeah, now Kane is saying, he's been forced to build all these units, and he's taking them across the map.
He can't counterattack against this. There's still a Photon Overcharge available. There's still a couple Stalkers. He still has some force fields to block off if need be. Now would be like the time to work on those rocks, but even then, I still don't know if that's going to be enough.
No, +1 attack is just now starting for the melee.
Yeah, so he wants to go back into that Mutaling setup as well. And I don't think he can crack this 3rd base open. Kane's like, you're gonna have to go somewhere else, bud. I guess the rocks. Like, he should at least try to break the rocks down if there's not something here already covering them.
Yeah, no, and HuK is already thinking about that. He has cannons dropping behind the gateway that's there, and he has a great wall. So this really isn't going to matter. In fact, that wall, those cannons can reach the Lings, so they're not going to get a chance to do a lot. Sure, the Roaches could break that down, but there is more than enough static defense, Nate.
Yeah, the heavy commitment to cannons on this side, I think, is more than appropriate. Getting a couple here. And if he was really worried about those rocks being broken, he could always start a few more. Another Zealot attack. That pylon's still out on the map. He's got 5 Zealots running over to this 3rd base area once again, and this poor Queen all alone. Yep,
the Roaches, the Lings, they are coming back. They're going to clean this up, but not before a few drones go down.
Yeah, I will say it's really nice the placement of that pylon that HuK is using, because it's just enough out of the way that those Roaches and Lings, when they cross the map, they didn't actually see it. So even though it doesn't force a cancel on that base, he still makes things really, really tough. And I really like HuK's position, because look at what he's building himself up for. Only thing that's late, once again, is the +2 in the blink. But he had that base denial earlier. The Mutalisks are what's going to make things still really difficult again, though, because there's no blink at all.
Yeah, but HuK is definitely on a 30-base economy, can't afford the cannons for static defense. I'm not too worried about HuK's position. Only 2 Mutalisks on the way. He does have the flyer upgrades coming. I'm sorry, the 2 Mutalisks are joining a flock of 7 already.
Yeah, he's actually got pretty good amount. 13 mutas on the map already. So this isn't bad. If he can get there as some of these cannons are building, he can still do a lot of work. A couple of Stalkers on their own don't really deter Mutalisks all that well. He needs the Stalker support with the cannons, and I really like this. Taking this fight head-to-head, he recognizes, like, yeah, I can actually shut this down. You got a sentry here, I can kill that too. Now more Stalkers show up. Now the Photon Overcharge shows up. But still, Bridgehead is a map where he can easily do this bounce maneuver back between the natural and the main.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have that vertical setup where you have base, 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 there's a lot of angles of attack where Kane is free to just continue to harass. So he is forced to make the photon cannons. He's forced to leave units behind, use the photon overcharge. And here we go. Some glaive worms are going to take out a few probes. We only get 2 that time.
Let's compare it to the last game, though, right? We had Kane try to make this switch when he was already basically dead. And now HuK is so far away. He's only like halfway towards blinking +2. Kane can actually have a really scary number of Mutalisks by the time that HuK wants to push. And that means he's going to have to drop something like, I don't know, he's going to need like a dozen cannons at one of these bases and basically say, yeah, okay, I accept that there could be a base trade. I just have to completely cannon the hell out of one base.
Yep, HuK losing an observer, losing a little bit of map vision. One thing that is really nice for Kane is he has a good overlord spread, and he's going to see if they try to attack the top base, if they try to attack the bottom base.
The Forge with +2. Blink isn't ready yet, so actually he could deny this upgrade. That's really, really big. That's one more shot that it will take the Stalkers to kill Mutas if they get into head-on engagements, and now he's going to come kill these cannons. This is also really important because this opens up him to send any Roaches or Lings he has to those rocks again now.
Yep, a couple Warpins getting shut down. There are a lot of Stalkers, though, so the Mutas have to go away. But
ooh, this is what I was talking about, Lycan. The Stargate. It's going to take so long to get this Stargate and a Fleet Beacon and 2 more Stargates. HuK has realized he actually cannot deal with the Mutalisk count anymore.
Nope, it's getting to that critical mass. He's going to be able to do a lot of damage, push at multiple angles, or just push right at the front.
Yeah, I love this. Look at the Lings. There's perfect cannon fodder while he takes out the cannons, and this means that he can swoop in from the side and harass that mineral line more.
Literal cannon fodder, Nate.
Yeah.
So here he is. He's pushing right on top of these units. The Stalkers, sure, the Immortals are doing a lot of work, but there are so many Lings and Mutas.
And there's so many Zerglings to tank. He's got 28 Mutalisks right now. He's only lost 5 this game, and he has 5 more Mutalisks on the way. So really good retention of those Mutas. He threw just enough Lings and Roaches at that Protoss army that he was able to slow it down without losing any Mutalisks. This is still a really tense moment, though, because that army is powerful. He does have Blink, not +2, though, so the army's a bit weaker than it was last game, and that sentry count, of course, vastly reduced.
Yep, so this engagement is going to come down a lot to HuK's control. He is trying to blink back, but there are so many mutas taking out a ton of Stalkers.
No Guardian Shield either makes it so tough to actually win this fight. Kane is looking to move on to Premier League once again, and if his mutas can overwhelm these Stalkers, there's not really a whole lot else that HuK will be able to do. He has very little gas. He does have another Stargate. He does have the Fleet Bacon coming in, but without the Phoenix range upgrade, without a substantial number of Phoenix, there's no way he's going to shut down 30 Mutalisks.
Nope, not at all. He does have the Photon overcharge, but again, that can only be used so many places, and he can just run to the farthest away base.
Yeah, I mean, he's had to burn that Photon overcharge so much, and look, the mutas come in once again. They're going to pick up all these forces on the ground. The Phoenix alone are not going to contest these mutas.
No,
he's not even worried about it. He's like, oh, you have Photon overcharge? That's really interesting. Tell me more, as he kills everything in this base.
Exactly. There's 18 army supply on the map for HuK. This is just not enough to deal with the mass of army that Kane has.
After all the smack talk, Kane has come out on top, and he will be going for the 3rd season in a row to Premier League for the World Championship Series. HuK, he's, well, at this point, Kane's basically going to be sending him the contact info. He's like, yeah, okay, if you want to cast my games in the round of 32, I'll see you there, bud.
Yeah, so HuK's just holding on. He's just waiting and saying, just delaying that GG.
Yeah, this one has to hurt for HuK. He's at 38 supply. GG's called. Kane is going to Premier League once again. A 3-2 score, a fitting end for this best of 5. We talked about Bridgehead being a map that Zerg's been successful with some cheddar on. Kane played about as straight up as you're going to see, and he took down one of NA's best.
Yeah, some things you see in these series, the best of 5s, you'll see a player go up 2 games, right? And then you'll see the player come back and go 3-2, right?
Well,
and
we almost saw that yesterday, too.
Yeah, and you think, okay, was that a fluke? Were those games, you know, like with the Neeb series, the Cannon Rush and all that? But no, I think Kane showed a really strong game, and we saw him take the advantages that he could, and I think he played really well.
Yeah, that was a good series by both guys on both accounts. Like, the first 2 games, HuK clearly looked sloppy. I mean, the big key to success when he started to turn things around was, you know, he was able to lock down the 3rd base, which he still did in Game 5, but especially in Game 4, like, he got all the upgrades, really, really sharp timings, too. Like, that push out on the map was nice that he delayed the base for, but he delayed his own Blink and +2 by so much that the Mutalisk count just got way too out of hand.
Yeah, we saw that aggression. It did well for him. He did get that hatchery sniped and all that, but then the Mutalisks were able to snipe the upgrades, and it was a game that Kane was able to look for those little windows and turn things in his favor when he could. Yeah,
so that is going to be it for our first series of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We have quite a few more, 3 more best of 5s to bring you here. You're watching the World Championship Series Challenger. Our next series, I believe, will be Polt versus Jon Snow. We'll see you guys after the break.